After a rough first 4 games of the season, the Phillies bullpen stood tall and strong at a very cold Citi Field, shutting out the National League champs for the first win of 2016. Turn the page and there's no time to gloat with a pretty tough customer taking them out in the rubber match here in Queens. After the deep freeze the last couple of days up here at Citi Field, things are warming up. A bright, sunshiny afternoon as the Phillies look to wrap up their 3-game series against the Dark Knight of Gotham. They're looking for a series win today, and here in New York, they're celebrating Bark in the Park for the first time. The Phils looking for win number 2 in 2016. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Matt Stairs. We'll hear from Greg Murphy in just a little bit. All right, we got all dressed up because we're looking for another Phillies victory this afternoon after an excellent pitching performance last night. We'll talk about Jeremy Hellickson a little later on in this open, but let's talk about Matt Harvey, who the Phillies will have to deal with today. They started figuring him out a little bit last year.
Well, they did, and they need to figure it out early in the game because it seems like the later he goes in the game, the stronger he gets, especially during the season as well. He starts off very well last year in 2015. You can see an amazing in April, 4-0, 2.20 ERA. ERA is pretty good, 3.054. But, you know, it's one of those things where you just have this guy going up there, and he's a power pitcher. He throws a very good fastball. His off-speed pitches he can throw for strikes. But for some reason in 2015, the Phillies hit him pretty well throughout the season. Ryan Howard connects on a fastball right here. You need to hit mistakes off Harvey. He's a guy that will give you a pitch to hit. If you can connect on it, the ball will go a long way. He doesn't throw a real heavy ball because he doesn't have that late movement. Now, the Phillies last year saw him really well. They saw him a lot. I think they might have picked up on some pitches, knew when he was throwing his fastball, knew when he was throwing his curveballs, and that's why they had a little bit of success.
All right, so he still won 2 of the 3 games against them. So last year it wasn't as much about the offense for the Phils because they did their job. It was more about the starting pitching in the games that Harvey pitched against the Phils. We'll see if they can continue to figure him out beginning this afternoon. He has pitched 1 game so far. He wasn't overly effective against the Royals. We'll see if the Phillies can capitalize here today. They'll also look to see if Jeremy Hellickson can build on what he did in his last outing against the Cincinnati Reds. Last year, Hellickson, 9 wins and 27 starts. His numbers aren't great in a limited amount of games against the New York Mets, but his pitches were down against the Reds. His cutter was effective against Joey Votto. We'll talk about Hellickson's first outing, looking ahead to start 2 when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota. Toyota's hybrid fleet is nothing short of a home run. Visit your local Toyota dealer today. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. On the field here at Citi Field in preparation for today's ball game between the Phils and the New York Mets. It's a gorgeous day, little crisp, but it'll be a little warmer than the last couple of days. All right, so we've talked about Matt Harvey already. Now let's talk about Jeremy Hellickson, who threw 79 pitches in Game 1 against the Reds. Pete Macadam says, in hindsight, I probably would have put him out there for another inning. It's a game that Phillies wound up losing, but it wasn't because of the way Hellickson pitched.
No, and he was in complete command from the first pitch to the last pitch when he came out of the game. His composure on the mound for opening day was unbelievable. All he did was he went out and he just pounded the strike zone. He was a very aggressive early in the count. That set up this great cutter he was throwing the whole game. He kept Joey Votto. This swing here is just ugly because he was sitting off speed. All of a sudden he throws that cutter inside. But having that command of the changeup, the cutter, the off speed pitches, nice play here by Freddie Galvis. His rhythm was tremendous, so having a good rhythm, now your defense is ready to play behind you all the time.
I think they figured some things out. I mean, compared to last year, we look at the pitch usage, which is down below, mostly fastballs, but then a very good dispersion of his other pitches, and that shows a lot of balance.
Well, and that's the key, is now all of a sudden as a hitter, you step in the batter's box, you have a guy who has 4 pitches, and he can throw them for strikes at any time you want. It makes it a little harder when you have to hit 4 pitches, or in other words, if you're throwing 55% fastball and 45% curveball, now you have to pick and choose which one you want to hit.
All right, well, he is warming up, ready to go for today's ball game. It'll be Hellickson against Harvey. Lineups at first pitch when we come back to Queens right after this. And say, what up, dog? That's the perfect dog for that saying right there. It's Bark in the Park. He's got a GoPro attached to his back. Well, for the pups that are out there, it's a pretty comfortable day to be outside here at Citi Fields. Mets have taken the field. They're warming up behind Matt Harvey. Let's take a look at the Phillies lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. It'll be Galvis, Hernandez, and Herrera, followed by Maikel Franco, Ryan Howard, and Carlos Ruiz, who gets the start today. In the bottom third of Cedric Hunter, Peter Borges, and Phillies pitcher Jeremy Hellickson. And they will face right-hander Matt Harvey. Harvey, who pitched the other day, went 5 2/3 against the Royals. He walked 2, struck out 2. He was saddled with the loss. Mets are wearing the throwback uniforms to 1986 as they celebrate the 30th anniversary of their second World Championship. He throws hard, Matt. There's no doubt about that. They wonder if the limited amount of games in spring training have cost him a little bit to start this season.
Yeah, his first outing, you see, he does throw very, very hard. He'll top it at 98 miles an hour. He is a 4-pitch pitcher. Still throws every pitch extremely hard. The slider at 89, the curveball at 83, the changeup is hard at 88. But his first outing versus the Royals, he was all over the strike zone, up and down. Now, which can be good at times for a pitcher because the hitter has no idea where to look. But I agree with you, Tom, that he missed some time in spring training. I think that affected his control.
He had an infection which was causing blood clots in his bladder. That's what cost him toward the end of spring training. So here we go. Sunglasses today. Yesterday, well, you needed a parka, a scarf, and anything else to keep yourself warm. Now the first pitch of the day. Check swing, doesn't matter. Jerry Meals calls it a strike. It's 0-1. Freddie is 1 for 8 in the series so far. Overall 4 for 20 in the first week of games. Floats that one out towards shallow left field. Conforto comes running in. Matt, it's time for our Nissan keys to the game.
Well, for me today, it's going to be about Cedric Hunter using your top hand. He's getting in there. He's having some good swings, but he's losing control of the barrel. It's dropping a little bit. Use that top hand. And number 2, make Harvey work extra. Don, when you mentioned earlier that he didn't throw a lot in spring training, make him throw some pitches. Make him move around on the mound. Lay some bunts down.
I think that is as accurate a key as you're going to find, particularly against somebody like this. Now, he is a strike thrower, so you may have to be confident hitting with 2 strikes. No balls and 1 strike to Cesar Hernandez. 6 for 15 so far this year. Make it 7 for 16 as he rolls that one down the left field line. He'll hold up at first. So 1 out single. Well, Murph, it has not been the greatest of weekends for Cesar Hernandez on the base paths, but at the plate, he's actually been quite good for the Phils.
Yeah, you know what, Tom, coming into this game, 4 for 8 batting out of that 2-hole. And we talked about it on yesterday's broadcast, how Pete decided to switch things around because he likes Cesar in that number 2 hole, and Cesar likes being in that number 2 hole. Lifetime coming into today's game, not including the hit he just got, he's batting .333 in that 2 hole. And I asked Cesar about that today. He said, well, first of all, he gets a chance to see some more fastballs in that 2 hole, which we've talked about before. But he says he also can take the opportunity to watch the leadoff guy and see what the pitcher is offering and how he's challenging the leadoff hitter. And he said, and ultimately, coming through the Phils minor league system, he was behind a guy named Tyson Gillies, who was often the leadoff guy. He batted in the 2nd spot, and he simply just got used to being in that 2 hole. He said that's what makes him feel so comfortable there. And so far, it's working for Pete. It's now, 5 for 9 so far this season coming out of the 2 hole.
When he gets back as Harvey throws over to first base, and your heart beats a little bit when that happens because he has not played well on the base paths. Murph's right on as far as the numbers go at the plate, but he has run into a little bit of trouble running the bases, including the infield fly roll the other day and not scoring on a little dribbler up the 3rd base line last night. Now, he was thrown out on what was an apparent hit and run in last night's game, and Pete said that it was Odubel who missed the sign. It wasn't Cesar. But Cesar did not score in the 9th inning last night on a slow dribble up the 3rd base line, and he should have, as we mentioned, and Pete said it again today. As Odubel loops it out toward left center field, backing up on it is Cabrera, and he makes the catch. 2 outs. And that'll bring Michael Franco to the plate. Crew chief Jerry Meals is behind the plate here this afternoon. Ron Culpa's over at first. Paul Nart is at second, and Chris Conroy is around at third. Jerry Meals in his 3rd year of being a crew chief. Here's Franco, who is 1 for 4 in this series. Did not play in game 1. And it's 0-1. Is he falling off just a little bit, Matt?
You know, I was watching that swing right there, and one, he's late getting his foot going towards the plate, which means you never ever close up, and that step towards 3rd base is going to be a killer if they throw fastballs low and away.
Now, he will from time to time get into that mode, but will get back.
Right.
And the key is getting back.
But he'll make the adjustment with 2 strikes. He shortens up, he closes the front foot in. Now, I have no problems with it because he's still very aggressive swinging, and he's so strong that he can get a fastball outer 3rd and still pull it to left field. I just do not want to get him in the habit of thinking he is a dead pull hitter when he's not.
I think his home run the other day is an indication of that, as Hernandez runs on this pitch and swipes the bag for the first time this year. He had been caught the previous 2 times, so a stolen base puts a runner in scoring position. A little different catcher behind the plate for the Mets.
Well, on a little different jump than he had last night. That was a tremendous jump. Head down the whole way. I mean, look at that great stride, picking up speed.
All right, so let's see if the Phillies can get a run here in the top of the 1st against Matt Harvey. That one is back just in front of us. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Lori-Ann Powell of Marlton. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, and Lori-Ann will win $100, and Murph will drop it off at her house on his way home today.
It's awful kind of you, Murph.
Happy to help.
People helping people.
Yep.
Such a team guy.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Franco. Fouls it back again.
You know, and I talk about make sure that Franco doesn't get into that pull mode, especially at a young age. Those are a couple pitches that he should be able to drive to right center, but pulling off a little bit, he's hitting it towards the end of the bat and hitting the weak line drive back into the screen.
And he's down on strikes. He got a pitch on the inside part of the plate. A little softer pitch, and Harvey picks up his first strikeout of the day. The Phils leave one in scoring position. It's Jeremy Hellickson time when we return to Citi Field. Scoring position in their half of the first. Let's take a look at the Mets lineup presented by Terry Collins for this afternoon's ball game. It's brought to you by Xfinity. The new Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. It'll be Granderson, Wright, and Cespedes, followed by Lucas Duda, Neil Walker, and Michael Conforto. At the bottom third of is Drupal Cabrera, Kevin Plawecki, and Matt Harvey. And they'll face right-hander Jeremy Hellickson. Jeremy did not get a decision in his first outing of the year. Went 6 strong, 6 strikeouts, only 79 pitches. He's 1-1 lifetime with an ERA that's above 9 against the Mets. It's only 2 starts. So facing them here this afternoon, try to pick up where he left off on Monday afternoon.
Well, and you check out the scouting report. Average fastball 90.1, 4-pitch pitcher. We won't talk about his ERA versus the Mets because it's a new year. But fastball 49%. And then every other pitch he mixed in, which was tremendous on the opening day. I just like the fact that he had complete control of every single pitch he threw that day for strikes.
Curtis Granderson will lead things off. He takes on the inside corner. Granderson 0 for 8 in this series with a walk. Breaking ball low, 1-1. Good spot for that one. That changeup on the outer edge. It's 1-2. I mentioned how Jeremy Hellickson really mixed in his pitches his last time up. Predominantly fastballs, but then his other 3 pitches were used pretty evenly. And that really came into effect against the left-handers. His display against Joey Votto was some of the best pitching you're going to see against Joey Votto.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you go home after the night and go, man, that was just ugly approach I had tonight versus a right-hander.
1-2 pitch coming. Out towards center field, and Odubel Herrera into the alleyway says he has it. Battling the sun a little bit, 1 away. This week only, T-Mobile customers can get a free season-long subscription to MLB.TV Premium. Go to T-Mobile.com/MLB to sign up now and catch every moment on America's fastest growing LTE network. This is the final day that you can take advantage of it. So, Ben, if you're listening back home, you better sign up for it. David Wright is the hitter. Wright 1 for 4 in this series. Did not play last night. Was available to pinch hit in last night's ball game. In fact, he started loosening up in the 6th inning of last night's game, and it took him a couple innings, but he told Terry Collins he was ready to go if he needed him. As it turns out, Jeanmar Gomez made quick work out of everybody in the 9th inning. So before Terry Collins could turn and say, hey, Wright, the game was over. The only one he probably would have pinch hit for was Wilmer Flores. The only problem is Terry Collins didn't want to put him in at third base. So that would have changed things a little bit. They could have put Campbell over there if for some reason the Mets tied it. 1 ball and 1 strike to Wright. The changeup off the glove of Ruiz. Good changeup.
That's back-to-back good changeups. It's such a good pitch to a right-hander, because especially if you throw it down and in, and I think it's a fastball. You want to cheat so bad to get out there to drop the barrel to the ball. Next thing you know, you're way out in front of it.
Chopper left side. Franco ranges to his left. A little sidearm over to first, and there are 2 outs. And that'll bring Yoenis Cespedes to the plate as Wright is retired. Cespedes heard some boos last night. He just heard some cheers in the background. I wondered what kind of reaction he would get here today, just based on his effort in last night's game. This series he's 1 for 9, but also his comments after the game last night. When asked about the ball game and the outing that Vince Velasquez put together, really the only thing Cespedes said was that it was way too cold, and that was the kind of night that we should have just been in bed. Breaking ball outside. 1 ball and no strikes. After driving Murph home last night, he probably agreed with the same thing. Either that or a hot shower.
Today is delightful. That's all I'll say.
Center field. And Odubel is there. That one, we battle in the sun. He stays with it and makes the catch. And the side is retired. Nothing across for New York. We've completed our 1st inning. Ryan Howard will get a chance when we come back. That was Bringing the Lumber, brought to you by Yellowwood brand pressure treated pine.
He was bringing it, and it was loud. Fastball down the zone. An absolute missile. Didn't matter how hard that wind was blowing, he cut the wind.
Gets a chance to play again this afternoon against the right-hander. 250 on the year, couple home runs, 3 RBIs. He said he did just miss the other one later in the game, right off the end of the bat. I think that's a good sign, though, for Howard, that he's hit 2 home runs the opposite or to center field in the opposite way, and he just missed that one last night and could still have been out of a couple other ballparks.
And he missed one in Cincinnati as well.
Oh, that's true. One ball and 1 strike to Howard. In the dirt, 2-1.
I just like the fact that Ryan's hitting more fly balls this year. You know, which means he's staying back a little bit. The ball's getting a little deeper. He's getting that nice, not uppercut swing, but the high finish.
Fights off a fastball into the second deck. And it evens up 2 balls, 2 strikes. I always talk so often about where Ryan stands in the box. It's pretty standard right there. In the dirt, 3-2. Almost looks like the camera took its glasses off there for a second.
Good at bat.
So Ryan works out a walk. Carlos Ruiz is coming up. I always wonder what pitchers think of Howard at this point in his career. The last couple of years, there have been times where I think they've gone right after him, and let's say they've walked Chase Utley ahead of him. But in this lineup, you know, he and Franco are the guys that you probably have to be a little leery about, as that one is rolled softly towards second. A little hesitation by Howard forces Walker to take a beat or two, and Ruiz is able to get to first without a throw. So 1 away, 4-6 on the putout. And here comes Cedric Hunter.
And I agree with you, Tom. I mean, he hit a home run last night. He's hit a home run off Harvey before. He's one guy with, I mean, really in the lineup besides Michael Franco, who hasn't really established himself as a true power hitter yet. Who are you going to say, I'm not going to let beat me today? There's one guy that I'm going to be careful with, Ryan Howard.
Yeah, it's got to be Howard, and then it would then go to Franco. I mean, everybody else is, you don't know much about Cedric Hunter, and the rest of the guys are singles or doubles hitters. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
A lot of it doesn't have to do with numbers or age of people. It goes by name and other respect of saying, okay, this guy still is dangerous. Ryan Howard falls out of bed, he's going to hit 20 home runs in a platoon situation.
That one's off the end of the bat, out towards shallow left. Cabrera says he has it. Two outs. Today's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. Two outs. Peter Borges is coming up. Peter so far is 2 for 15. Had a double in yesterday's ball game.
Harvey has a lot of movement today on those pitches. He's had 3 balls so far hit. Now Hernandez, inside out fastball, base hit, whatever. But Herrera, Freddie Galvis, and Hunter.
Carlos trying to surprise everybody, and he's thrown out trying to steal.
I'll tell you next time he's on the mound.
All right, you can give it to us again. We'll tuck it away. No runs, no hits, nobody left. Onto the bottom of the second in a scoreless game.
mornings.
Wake up with the only live Philly sports morning show.
Check out Breakfast on Broad next week on Comcast Sportsnet.
We'll see you Monday morning at 6.
Well, Barrett, we'll look forward to that. We'll see you on Comcast Sportsnet as they flip from TCN to Comcast Sportsnet. A lot to talk about with the Flyers going to the postseason. The hangover from Villanova winning the national championship and the Phillies home opener tomorrow at Citizens Bank Park. We go to the bottom of the second inning. It's bark in the park here at Citi Field. Dogs got a chance to roam around the warning track before the start of the ball game.
Tom, I would need a whole section if I brought all my
I
dogs.
was thinking about that. It would be almost like a commercial of you having a dog walking business. There's Lucas Duda, and he'll lead it off. He's 2 for 6 in this series. 1 ball and no strikes. Jeremy Hellickson kicks the rosin bag back out of sight. I don't think Duda asked for it. I think Jerry Meals, the home plate umpire, was having trouble. Change up low, and it's 2-0. A lot of change-ups today for Jeremy Hellickson.
Well, I mean, the New York Mets they are a very good fastball hitting team, and they're, especially the big guys, they crush the number 1. Let's just say they hit the fastball well.
Now, I wondered, he doesn't have the same stuff, of course, as Vince Velasquez, but if he would take anything out of Velasquez's start in yesterday's ball game.
Oh, I believe so. I think for left-handers, there's that hole, below the elbow, above the knees, inside.
He got that one in. Odubel's having trouble with the sun. Cedric's there to help, though, and he makes the catch. Corner outfielders are going to have to be on their toes here today, particularly if there's anything hit to left center field and right center field, because we've seen with the first 2 innings that Odubel's having trouble judging because of the sun, and they'll have a better angle than he will finding the baseball, I would think.
Agree 100%. That's where the communication is so important, saying, all right, the sun's in my eyes. If I'm going to my right, I'm okay. If I'm going to my left, Peter, you better be there to help me out. There's always used to be signs they used to give to outfielders, so you wouldn't give it away. If you tap the top of your hat while the ball's coming down, means you're fine, you see it. If you give the behind the head, which is basically a no double sign, and if I do that in the outfield, it means I am in trouble. I need help.
Neil Walker, 4 hits so far on the season for the Mets. 5 RBIs. He's among the leaders in baseball, although he's going to get knocked off that leaderboard if the Padres keep playing games the way they're hitting the last couple of days.
Unbelievable.
After going scoreless for the first 30 innings of the season, they're scoreless no more. Cedric Hunter out in left field, moves in a step and then freezes. 2 outs. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD at over 400 supported devices. It includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. 2 outs. Michael Conforto is the hitter. He is 2 for 7 with 3 RBIs in this series for the Mets. Curveball, and it's 0-1.
We have seen a lot of change-ups so far from Jeremy Hellickson, but what I like about it is now all of a sudden the hitter's going to think, well, first time through the order, a lot of change-ups. Don't be surprised, especially in the second time through the order, they start seeing more cutters inside. Because now as a hitter, you're thinking, wow, a lot of change-ups, I need to stay back and recognize the pitch. Next thing you know, boom, cutter under the hands.
And Carlos is smart enough behind the plate that he'll recognize that. A lot of things that Carlos still does well. Calling a game is probably at the top of the list.
Yeah, I would agree.
2 strikes.
Carlos would have made a great American League catcher because he calls backwards. He calls off speed and hitters counts. When ahead in the count, he'll throw fastballs.
Swing and a miss. He got it with a breaking pitch. First strikeout of the day for Jeremy Hellickson. 6 up, 6 down. On to the third here at Citi Fields.
Almost here tomorrow at 3:05. It is Nemours opening day at Citizens Bank Park. And free to all fans on opening day, an opening day commemorative cap for everyone that walks through the gates. The Padres are coming to town for a 4-game series. You can get your tickets at Phillies.com. And guys, it is my job to get you two, Tom and Matt, and everyone back at home, fired up for tomorrow's home opener. So I've enlisted the help of the Leapfrogs, my good friends over at the Leapfrogs.
Goodness, I thought that was you for a second.
No, that's not me. That's not me. Oh, man, that would be so cool, though. They are the U.S. Navy parachute team comprised of United States Navy SEALs, and they are part of our ceremonies tomorrow at Citizens Bank Park. That was this morning. They took a little dry run over the ballpark to make sure that they can deliver the baseball on time. I have no doubt that they'll be able to deliver the baseball on time. How cool is that? I should have let you believe that was me.
I'm sitting there thinking, man, I know just about everything about Murph, and I don't remember him doing that.
Well, I was a Navy SEAL in my younger days, yeah. No, I was not.
Well, we are looking forward to it. First pitch, 3:05. Aaron Nola on the mound for the Phils. Andrew Kashner on the mound for the Padres. Peter Borges will lead it off here in the third. Borges fouls it off to the right. It's 0-1. Borges 1 for 4 in the series, 2 for 15 so far.
As I was saying last inning, Matt Harvey's fastball, when it's up in the zone, straight as an arrow. But he gets a lot of movement when it's down in the zone, especially his sinker. 3 lefties today have hit the ball right off the end of the bat. Weak fly balls to short and 1 to left. And Freddie Galvis' fly out to left came off a changeup, but Herrera and Hunter, their fastballs at the bottom of the zone. You think you're going to barrel it, and it has that late movement. Not a hard late movement, but it moves enough to get off the barrel to the end of the bat.
I'm used to him throwing this many other pitches. You know, normally it's just fastball, fastball, fastball. At least in the games that we've watched over the years. I mean, he has a very good slider. 2-2 pitch to Borges. There is that fastball at 96 up the third base line. Right has it, throws, not in time. Dropped by Duda. So Borges has an infield hit. Actually turned out to be closer than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I honestly believe that if the throw is on the money, Borges is out at first base. David Wright's coming in full speed. Look at that.
You're right.
He would have been out at first base.
If it didn't have that last bit of tail. So now Hellickson's up. Hellickson was 1 for 2 in the opener against the Reds. But he's up there to try to sacrifice Borges in the scoring position. Borges has excellent speed. Ball's bunted foul off Plawecki. All right, take another look at it to see if he would have had him with a clean throw. Oh yeah, he would have. I think Duda stretched as far as he could. He might have stretched a little too soon on an odd angle. Hellickson bunts it up the first base line. It's now 0-2. Borges is making sure that was indeed a foul ball. I would think Hellickson's bunting again.
Yeah, I would think so. And one thing about bunting right in this situation is you don't have to be perfect, because you have a guy at first base that can absolutely fly on the base paths.
Oh, he's not bunting. He slices one out to right center field for a base hit. That's even better. It'll be first and third with nobody out as Hellickson picks up his second hit of the season. Do you think he surprised Harvey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're going in a Phillies team that hasn't scored a lot of runs this year. Pitcher's up in a situation where you got to believe he's going to lay a bunt down. And what's he do? He throws a off-speed pitch actually down the zone, and just another knock by the pitchers.
What is that, their fourth hit now?
Yep.
And Borges was easily over to third base. So now Freddie Galvis is up. The middle infield is looking to turn two for the Mets. Wright is in at third. Duda's in at first. And a grounder foul. All right, this is one of the issues the Phillies have had this year, is runners in scoring position. I should say the first week of the season. Uh-oh, here comes another jacket situation.
Hopefully they got the right jacket this time for Hellickson.
And it's unzipped and ready to go. Freddie Galvis is taking a little extra time. I think that swing stung his hands a little bit. Yeah.
Left hand.
Yeah, he's trying to get the feeling back in it. Your pitcher, you see that, you might go right in at him. And a liner out toward left field. Conforto comes running in, makes the catch. Borges tags, he'll score, and it's 1-0 Phillies here in the third.
Well, that'll make the finger feel a lot better right there, especially when you barrel a pitch up in the zone.
That's right. Franco says, way to get that run home.
With the pitch out over the plate. Nice job of hitting right there. Hitting the ball to the big part of the field, getting a sac fly.
RBI number 3 for Galvis this season. 1-0 Phillies, and Cesar Hernandez is the hitter. They're not holding Hellickson on. And Cesar serves it foul over the tarp. Nice catch.
Play. Now, Murph, that's why you bring a glove right there.
That's exactly right. That's why you bring a glove.
That was a heck of a catch.
This could be 2. Cesar runs well, so he may be able to beat it. And he does. 4-6 on the putout at second base, a fielder's choice. And Odubel Herrera will be the hitter.
There's twice in this game you've had a 4-6 potential 4-6-3 double play. Neither of them got turned so far. It's getting warmer. Herrera must be getting a little. He must be starting to feel hitterish.
He's taken off at least 1 or 2 layers from what he was wearing yesterday.
throw over again.
Well, he has swiped a bag so far.
Matt Harvey's last outing versus the Royals, he threw almost 23% changeups.
Yeah, I think that's odd for him.
Which is way up there compared to 12% in 2015.
We see the Mets so often, because of the division. So we saw him 3 times last year, a boatload in the years previous, and changeup was part of it, but it wasn't as dominant as it has been today.
It's a pitch that when you go into your scouting report, your hitting coach would say, don't worry about his changeup. It's a show pitch. He doesn't throw it very often. The only reason why he throws it is so that you have in the back of your mind that he does have a changeup. He might throw it at some time. But when you're throwing almost 23% changeups in your first outing, now all of a sudden he becomes a fastball changeup. Now we eliminate the curveball because that's down to 6%. So now it's a 3-pitch pitcher instead of a 4-pitch pitcher.
0-1 to Odubel. Ooh, we got a good pitch to hit. 95. He missed his spot, and it's 0-2.
Now I will say this though, as you see this pretty good swing right here, just still a little late. Good fastball down the bottom of the zone. Those numbers probably will change. He might not have had the feel for the curveball or the slider in Kansas City on the first game.
Odubel stays alive as he fouls it at the plate. It remains 0-2.
I would think you'd have to send him right here. No balls, 2 strikes. If you get thrown out, so what? Now you have Herrera, new count, leading off the 4th inning.
Yeah, you have 3, 4, and 5 to start the 4th.
Exactly.
No balls, 2 strikes to Odubel. He doesn't go, and the pitch is up and in, 1-2.
After a high fastball up and in, good off-speed count pitch right here.
Matt talked about his success last April. You saw the success he's had in his career with 8 wins. And Odubel hits it back toward the middle. Cabrera's got it. He was shaded that way. Side is retired. But the Phillies do strike first. They get a run on a sacrifice fly by Freddie Galvis. Middle of the 3rd. Cabrera will lead it off with the Phils up 1-0. Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. Matt, the question is, which Met tied a franchise record with 7 multi-home run games last season. Which Met tied the franchise record? 7 multi-home run games last season. We will reveal the answer in just a little bit. 7 is also the Phillies record, and it's held by 3 players. 2 of the players did it in the same season. As Asdrubal Cabrera leads it off, it's 1-0. Originally it was set back in 1968 when Dick Allen had 7 multi-home run games. On the inside corner, 1-1, and then in 2006, 2 of your teammates, your former teammates, had 7 multi-home run games. You care to venture who they are?
I'm going to say Howard and Ibanez.
Howard is correct, as that's tap foul.
Ibanez probably no.
Well, he wasn't with the Phillies at the time. He may have had it at some point with some other team. He arrived a little later. But the other was a teammate of yours.
Ibanez was my teammate.
I know, but he didn't do it.
Oh, thank you.
1-2
Jay
to
Wirt,
Cabrera.
J-Dub?
That's a good guess, but no, it's not him.
Jimmy Rollins.
No. As Asdrubal Cabrera strikes
Anyway, that
out.
was a beautiful curveball.
I really thought you'd get that pretty quick.
I'm just running out of power, guys.
You do have 1 left.
So I'll tell you what, this is a curveball that drops off the table. Great location, 2 strikes.
I'll give you a hint. His number is worn by the same guy that's at the plate right now, or was worn. There's a strike, and it's 0-1.
Pat Burrell? I don't know what number 26 was.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. In the dirt. Murph, you want to help him out with that one?
I would take Chase Utley.
Chase Utley is correct.
Chase wore 26? That's right. Tom, I have a hard time remembering what number I wore.
Well, depending on which team you were on, mostly it was number 12. That one's lined down the left field line. Foul. So 1 ball, 2 strikes to Plawecki, who has not played this year. Two at 2. Plawecki playing today as Travis d'Arnaud has the afternoon off.
Hellickson has that delivery where he just kind of lulls you to sleep, and he has that quick arm. And even though he throws 90, 91, the ball gets on you so quick because he has that little toe tap before he lands, and then he picks it up and goes again. He's got the little stutter step.
He's not a big guy. He's listed at 6'1". I don't think he's 6'1". No offense, Matt.
You're asking the wrong dude.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Check swing, foul ball. over to the left side. Franco to his left. He's got it and throws a strike for the second out. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Jefferson. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And buy your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com. Along with Matt Stairs and Greg Murphy, I'm Tom McCarthy on a sunny Sunday afternoon here in New York. Phillies lead it 1-0 on a sac fly by Freddie Galvis. Matt Harvey is the hitter against Jeremy Hellickson. And Hellickson delivers a fastball upstairs. Harvey does have a home run in his career, hitting a .128. One ball, one strike to him.
And by looking at his setup,
he's ready to go, huh?
And the shin guard in the front foot, I'm going to say he's a pull hitter. Maybe not.
Well, he got fooled on that one, though. He was just bailing and wailing. It's funny, you grabbed a bat out of the bat rack today in the clubhouse, and you said, is this a pitcher's bat? And why did you say that? What was the reason?
So there's no hits in it.
Oh, I thought it was the weight, because most pitchers use a lighter bat than what, let's say, you used. About 33-30 or 32-29, something like that.
Who, me?
No,
oh,
pitchers. Yeah.
No, they probably use 30 ounces.
Yeah. Swing and a miss. He got him with a breaking ball. 3 strikeouts through the first 3 innings for Jeremy Hellickson. 9 up, 9 down. We'll go to the 4th, and the Phils are on top 1-0. And their Jet Intelligent Toner cartridges print up to 1/3 more pages. Get yours from who but WB Mason today and experience the difference. Nobody beats WB on HP. Top of the 4th inning, it's 1-0 Phillies on top on a sac fly by Freddie Galvis. Walking around the concourse last night, there were actually a lot of Phillies fans that were part of the near 40,000 crowd that was here for last night's ball game, which included fireworks. And also included a very comical moment at the end of the game. Not when Murph was interviewing Vince Velasquez, although it got dark when that happened at the end. But we had pointed out that prior to the fireworks, Charlie Morton was out in the bullpen throwing a bullpen because he was available as a long man for last night's game. As Franco swings over top of that first pitch. So he started his bullpen and the lights were on. And then all of a sudden, as Bob McClure was arriving at the bullpen, the lights went out and Charlie proceeded to finish his bullpen with the lights out. I said, how did that go? He said, it was different. No worries about that here today. Mets used to have a pitching coach who also was the pitching coach in Milwaukee and in Oakland.
Peterson?
Yeah, Rick Peterson. That would sometimes blindfold the pitcher and
Oh, I've seen it.
yeah, have them throw. Guess it's kind of the same thing.
It's impressive. I'll never forget Jimmy Haynes was throwing bullpen one time blindfolded and throwing strikes.
Out towards shortstop, backhanded by Cabrera. Scooped up by Duda, one away. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, the Marlins and the Nationals were snowed out. I guess the proper term was wintered out yesterday. Well, they're tied at 1 in the top of the second inning. Mike Stanton, or Giancarlo as he likes to be called, an RBI single. Bryce Harper, an RBI double in that ball game. They're only playing one today. They're going to play the day-night doubleheader later on this year. Ryan Howard walked his first time up. Starts him off with something soft, and it's 0-1. Ooh.
Now you see Harvey's velocity starting to jump up a little bit. That was 96.
Howard tries to check his swing. How about 97? And it's 1-2.
It's amazing how power pitchers get stronger as the game goes.
I think we saw that last night with Velasquez. He got stronger as the game went on. That's only the second strikeout for Harvey. 2 outs here in the 4th.
You know, last night Vince's 95th was 95 miles an hour. This one here followed by a 97 mile an hour fastball. The previous pitch with a very nice off-speed curveball.
Carlos takes a fastball and it's 0-1.
See, even the depth of the slider is totally different now. Getting on top of it before, it was almost like a side-to-side slider. Now that has that little depth at the very end. Again, almost like a cutter action.
One-two pitch in the dirt.
I still get amazed watching guys that throw that hard, 97, and throw so many off-speed pitches.
I'm totally with you. Like Syndergaard just throws fastball after fastball.
We call him Thor.
Back to the box, knocked down by Harvey. Still able to throw Ruiz out. Phillies go down in order here in the 4th inning. So we'll head to the bottom of the 4th. Top of the order is due up for the Mets with the Phillies on top 1-0. Jobs for an Egg McMuffin and medium iced coffee for $3.49. And buy Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Phillies are on top 1-0. On to the bottom of the fourth inning. It'll be Granderson, Wright, and Cespedes due up for the Mets against Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson so far has thrown it's less pitches than a pitcher would normally be at through 3 innings. He has 3 strikeouts. He's had a pretty good comfort level with all of his pitches here this afternoon.
Again, back-to-back starts. Tremendous so far.
Went 6 innings his first day against the Reds through 79 pitches. He'll face Granderson to start off the 4th. Curveball in there, 0-1. That was only the 40th pitch of the day for Hellickson. Change up. Broke his bat, shattered his bat. Franco on the right side throws him out. 5-3 on the putout. Put a little arrow on that though to let everybody know that it's on the right side of the diamond, not the left. And David Wright is coming up. Boy, that's a good pitch. You mentioned something before about pitching backwards. You know that Ruiz is the kind of catcher that likes to call a game sort of backwards. This is pitching backwards right here.
Well, it is. It's a 1-ball, 2-strike. All of a sudden, now you get a fastball. You know, first pitch, you start off with an off-speed pitch. You get behind the count, they're throwing fastballs, and it's amazing how the game has really stayed pretty much the same throughout. With pitch sequence of you know, the American League was always off-speed early. The National League was a lot of fastballs. Now it's just a mixture of everything. It's whatever that pitcher wants to call, and it's all about scouting reports nowadays.
We had the dirt, 1 ball, 1 strike. Hellickson, when he came up with the Tampa Bay Rays, was the American League Rookie of the Year. And that same season, he won the Gold Glove, which is a great honor, not one usually bestowed on a young pitcher. In fact, he did it, and the only other guy to do it before him was Fernando Valenzuela, who was fantastic his rookie year and had a wonderful career, but also was just a tremendous athlete.
I had the great opportunity to play with Fernando down in Mexico. Him and I were teammates. That was a blast.
1-2 pitch coming. A high fastball. It's 2-2. I think it's just, you know, you looked at Fernando's rookie year and he was the best pitcher in the National League for most of it. Hellickson, I mean, he had a very nice year as a rookie, but to win the Gold Glove, he must have really turned some heads on with some spectacular plays. 2-2 pitch to Wright. Breaks his bat. Looper foul territory, and Howard won't be able to get to it. The head of the bat went out towards shortstop, and Wright's just fortunate that that ball wasn't high enough for Howard to get to it.
See this sawed off Kinlan.
Sawed off is right. Took that lizard skin right with it. The lizard skin grip.
Ball doesn't usually carry when you make contact there. Trust me, dude. I've been there many, many times.
Bat usually carries, though.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Got him. A fastball toward the outer edge. Looked like it shocked David Wright. 4 strikeouts for Hellickson. 2 gone here in the 4th inning.
You know, a very nice pitch. Again, you get into the point. What is he going to throw in this situation? Something soft or hard? Well, by the time I get my foot down, the fastball, we'll see right here. Right, oh, that's unbelievable. Great shot right there. That's right on the corner of the plate.
So now 2 away. Here's Cespedes. He flied out to center. His only time up. Breaking ball. Actually, that was a changeup. Had some great action, though, down.
Late.
Fastball looped out to right field, and that'll be the first hit of the day for the Mets. A 2-out single here in the 4th. Hellickson had retired 11 straight batters to begin this ball game. Not even a well-hit ball, but a well-placed ball, and a lot of strength for Cespedes.
Yep. Go back in 2011 when he was Hellickson was Rookie of the Year. 189 innings. He only allowed 146 hits that year. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's a low whip, and the staff whip, the walks hits per innings pitched, has been one of the best in baseball this first week of the season. In fact, the starters earned run average 2.93, came into this ball game tied for 6th. The whip was less than 1. That's outstanding. Batting average against was 194. First time from the stretch, and a pitch low. It's 1-0. Velasquez kind of powered that through last night. One ball and no strikes to Lucas Duda. One ball and 1 strike.
Again, another very nice changeup, about 10, 11 mile an hour difference from the fastball.
Decided to throw it again.
What makes this changeup and his fastball, they look the exact same because it's the same arm slot, the same spin of the baseball. Everything's the exact same minus the 10 miles an hour or 11 mile an hour difference.
Well, he's even now 2 balls and 2 strikes. This is where you wonder, he was able to get Granderson on a fastball in. Duda, you got to be careful with him a lot of times with the fastball in. But that's also the game plan, or was the game plan last night. Now you do have a guy that's throwing 6 miles an hour different.
Yeah, it's a little different coming in inside corner with 96 compared to 90, unless it's a nice cutter.
Yeah, I was going to say he's thrown the cutter 9% of the time, as you saw in that graphic. Maybe he throws it here like he did with Votto. They're going to set up outside. And a changeup that was just barely off the outer edge. So 3-2 with 2 outs means Cespedes is off and running on this pitch. Howard will just linger behind him. The 3-2 pitch. Fouled it away. So we'll do it again. Cespedes has to curl from shortstop and go back to first. You would have had no problem finding him last night once they turned the lights out, particularly with what he's wearing today.
You don't like those wristbands?
I think they're very flashy. I don't mind them. I'm just saying you wouldn't have any problem finding them. He goes again. And a fastball called strike 3. 5 strikeouts for Jeremy Hellickson. You want to talk about pitching backwards today and how to do it? That's exactly what Hellickson and Carlos Ruiz are doing. Duda, I don't think was expecting a fastball, particularly one that was center cut. Night will be next Saturday when the Phillies take on the Washington Nationals. It's part of a 3-game series, and all kids 14 and under will receive that great giveaway. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. We begin the top of the 5th inning. Cedric Hunter will start it off. Hunter popped out to shallow left his first time up. Tracked down by the shortstop, Asdrubal Cabrera. 0-2. Matt Harvey so far has scattered 3 hits and 1 run through the first 4 innings. He's retired the last 6 batters that he's faced. Out to shallow center field. Cabrera and the second baseman Walker are out, and here comes Cespedes, who makes the call on the catch. Time now for our Jeep Stump the Fans trivia quiz answer. All right, Matt, which Met tied a franchise record with 7 multi-home run games last season?
I'm going to guess.
All right.
21 Duda.
Lucas Duda, very good with the number, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I looked at it.
Yeah.
I can see it
correct.
from here.
He tied Carlos Delgado, who in 08 had 7 multi-home run games, and Dave Kingman in 76 had 7 multi-hit games. Peter Borges broke his bat and is a ground-out victim. 2 outs here in the 5th inning, and Hellickson is going to take his sweet old time going up to the plate, because this is a pretty quick first 2 outs for Matt Harvey. He's throwing strikes. 16 of the first 17 batters he's thrown first pitch strikes.
That's impressive. And not just with fastballs either. Off speed pitch. There, see, we jinxed him.
That's okay. We can lead him astray every once in a while. Two balls and no strikes. Hellickson singled and helped the Phils score their only run back in the 3rd. He might have missed a sign with 2 strikes. But still got a base hit, and now he's ahead 3-0.
Hitting a whopping .667 on the year.
Somebody's got to lead the ball club.
But a career versus righties, he's hit .278.
Well, he came into this year with a better than 200 batting average as a pitcher. Doesn't get as many opportunities in the American League, or didn't. Count is full, 3-2. And he fights it off. Slow roller to short. Cabrera is up with it, and the side is retired. 1, 2, 3 go the Phillies. So 9 hitters in a row retired by Matt Harvey. However, the Phillies still have a lead. It's 1-0 as we go to the bottom of the 5th here in New York. Report brought to you by Citizens Bank. Well, the Blue Claws lost to Lexington 11-3. Jose Pujols did have an RBI single. Zach Green had a big day for the Threshers as they defeated Dunedin 9-5. Christian Marrero a couple RBIs for the Reading Fightins, but they lost to Portland 6-2. Citizens Bank, the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. That's still my favorite dog right there.
It's a good-looking dog.
They've decided the GoPro was not on the GoPro on the back of the dog was not providing enough solid video, so they've taken it off. Well, here's the last at bat for Hellickson, whose hands were just rattling after this one.
Yeah, he got severely jammed on that pitch right there. You can see right there, he doesn't feel very good running to first base. Shakes it, kind of like tries to get the bees out of it, let's just say. Bad feeling to get hit right there, especially when you get jammed.
Well, he took some extra time as he was walking out toward the mound to warm up. He's still trying to get the feeling back in his hands. How long does that take?
A couple of weeks.
Oh,
because it's not really the fact that you got jammed.
It's where you hit the muscle and the tendon.
It's where it gets hit in
ligament.
The
Yeah.
hand. Oh, it's brutal.
I would think there are parts of the hand, whether it be catching a ball or hitting a baseball, where you feel it more than others.
Yeah.
So we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. Phillies lead it 1-0. Their run came in the 3rd on a sac fly by Freddie Galvis, whose spikes need to be tended to. Neil Walker will lead it off. It'll be Walker, Conforto, and Asdrubal Cabrera for the Mets. Walker fly to left field his first time up. Swings at the first pitch. Galvis sprints out. Hunter's coming in, and he dives, and he makes the catch. What a play by Cedric Hunter for out number 1 here at the bottom of the 5th. Not only did he dive, but he had to dive to his right to make that catch.
Well, it's all about the initial step. Guess that's why that's going to be our Hyundai defensive play right here. Cedric Hunter getting a tremendous jump. All outs. Look at that. Very nice play. Good concentration. A lot of range. Making a very, very nice play.
Jeremy Hellickson certainly liked it. Brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. Here's Conforto. He struck out his first time up. Fastball 0-1. As soon as Freddie looked to see where Cedric Hunter was, you knew there was trouble in River City.
The alignment of the defenders right now, big pull on the inside, huge pull on the outside as well. All the right fielders are playing way over to right.
We've seen Conforto for 3 straight days. Apparently Terry Collins is going to be steadfast in the fact that he's going to be a platoon out in left field. So he probably will not play tomorrow. Mets will face a left-hander. Ball's inside. 3 balls and 1 strike.
So they'll put Cespedes back in left and Lagares in center.
Yeah, former Gold Glover. Doesn't matter what the count is, 3-1. He still threw him a changeup. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Conforto.
I would say he would have to get 600 at bats this year.
Conforto?
Yeah, he's a very good hitter, very good player. Well, one thing we've done this 3-game series is thrown a lot of off-speed pitches to him. A ton of change-ups, a ton of breaking balls. Pitching into the shift, pitching him hard inside, getting him to pull that ball, not allowing him to get his hands extended.
Fastball, and it just missed. He tried to get it to the inside part of the plate. It's the first walk allowed by Hellickson, and he's a little frustrated with himself. May have been frustrated with that call. That'll bring us Drupal Cabrera to the plate. Let's check in with Greg Murphy. Murph?
All right, thanks very much, Tom. Well, we have been talking about tomorrow, Nemours opening day back at Citizens Bank Park, which should be a terrific day indeed. But let me bring you back to a simpler time. On this date, April 10th, 1971, do you remember? It was the very first Phillies game at Veterans Stadium. It was a very chilly afternoon. Jim Bunning was the starting pitcher for the Phils. Larry Bowa had the first hit in Veterans Stadium history. April 10th, 1971, the Phils were playing the Expos, and the Phils won that game 4-1. So many years ago, but the first game at Veterans Stadium. Certainly a good memory, I'm sure, for a lot of people. There was 55,000 plus at Veterans Stadium that day.
Yeah, Larry Bowa, it's not lost on him that he had the first hit at Veterans Stadium. And he said that he knew going in that if the chance came, he wasn't going to let it pass by. That one's lifted out toward right center field. Borges floating toward the fence, reaches up and makes the catch. And Conforto will have to sprint back. So Cabrera gave it a charge, but he's retired for the second out. And Plawecki's coming up. And if you talk to Larry Bowa about it, I mean, he knows exactly what happened, when it happened, how it happened. And he also realizes that he opened up the new ballpark as the first manager at Citizens Bank Park. So he likes that. He likes the, I mean, you know, Larry likes to be part of the action and, you know, to be, you know, in the book with the first hit and with the first manager in Citizens Bank Park history. He is well aware of that. A simpler time, Murph.
That's right.
Plawecki takes at the knees, 0-1.
I like how Murph said 71 a long time ago.
Murph, what year were you born? What year were you born, Murph?
Well, I can tell you that I was not born.
But it was a simpler time.
It wasn't much simpler, so I'm told. I was born in 1971, but I was still cooking inside Mama Murph at that point.
Ground ball to third. And the throw is dug out by Ryan Howard, and the side is retired. The bat went out toward the third base coach's box. The Phillies are able to get through this fifth. It's still 1-0 as we go to the sixth. Is coming off a terrific rookie campaign a season ago. Out of the Rule 5 draft and into the Phillies lineup, Odubel Herrera took the bull by the horns and swung his bat with consistency, putting himself among the major league's best rookies in average, hits, doubles, and stolen bases. He also became the first Phillies rookie to achieve 25 doubles and 14 steals since Jimmy Rollins did so 15 years ago. El Torito made a big first impression in 2015. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. El Torito today is 0 for 2. A pop out to short and a ground out to short. He'll get a chance to bat here in the top of the sixth inning. The Phillies lead at 1-0. Phillies fans have made their way up to Citi Field. There were a number that were here yesterday. They were kind of roaming around the area out in center field where there's a lot of the restaurants. And they were able to stay for the game and what turned out to be an excellent ball game. Didn't matter where we were today, whether we came in through the front gates or even last night when we left. Everybody was saying, man, what a game last night. Very impressed with Vince Velasquez, the starting pitcher for the Phils. He was able to go 6 innings, struck out 9. Roy Halladay struck out 9 in his debut with the Phillies. Garrett Stevenson had the record with 12 strikeouts, the record for a player coming over from another team. 0-2 to Freddie Galvis, who asked for time.
Even Keith Hernandez came back over and talked about how impressed he was.
Biggest thing that Keith Hernandez, who was an excellent hitter during his time as a major leaguer, that he was impressed with was how Velasquez just dominated the inside part of the plate.
Yeah.
And got stronger as the game went on. 0-2 pitch to Galvis. Inside, 1-2. Freddie spoils that to stay alive. Phillies are currently 1-4, which means they're one slot ahead of the Atlanta Braves, who are winless so far in the National League. Galvis strikes out. Third strikeout for Matt Harvey. And one away for Cesar Hernandez.
Tells you how good this slider is. Freddie thinks it's a fastball. He actually takes a fastball swing at it. Takes a quick left turn and a hard slider.
Cesar 1 for 2. You see his season average at 412. Shows bunt, takes low. I know I said this yesterday. I like that idea, though. Now, he looked like he was going to bunt it toward right at third. If he had pulled it up along the first base line, Duda was so far back. I don't know if Harvey would have been able to make the play or not.
Again, it all comes back to, do they practice that during batting practice? Or do they just want to get up there and hit line drives or have fun trying to hit home runs? Do they practice on the bunting? Yeah, they're going to practice on sacrifice bunting. But, I mean, when you get into a game, and I think it's a great weapon. I would love to see Freddie Galvis, Cesar Hernandez and Odubel Herrera, the 1, 2, 3 guys, sometimes drag a bunt towards second base. You get in a situation right here with the left-handers that, one, you're going to be cheating coming out of the batter's box, but if you can get that bunt to go right in here and stop right in here every time, pretty much a guaranteed knock. All you need to do is get it past the pitcher.
3-2 pitch. Ground ball foul. And to get it past the pitcher, it all depends on the velocity of the way you bunt it.
Right.
That's why you're talking about taking it with you. There has to be some, it can't be soft. It's got to be hit pretty hard.
Right, and a lot of it has to do with your left foot. Your left foot steps over your right foot and hit a line drive to left.
Well,
and that's how it is. I mean, it's a technique of bunting. But the thing is that you need to stay in the batter's box until you lay the bunt down. But if you're going to continue to hit line drive after line drive and get base hits, don't worry about the bunting. Keep on hitting singles and line drives.
Well, that's his 8th hit in this first week. 8 for 18. He's made some mistakes on the base paths. He has, and he'll be the first to admit it, too. Although Pete said he didn't really look at him today when he was walking around the clubhouse. He said Hernandez was kind of looking the other way because he knew he made a mistake last night. But as Pete said, he goes, there's a lot of positives. He goes, the fact that he's hitting the way he's hitting.
The man can hit.
He can hit.
He can hit a fastball.
Here's Odubel. Odubel's popped out and grounded out today. Outfielders playing deep all the way around. Toyota Major League Scoreboard. We mentioned the Braves were winless so far this year, 0-4. Well, Brandon Moss has hit a 3-run home run. St. Louis leads Atlanta 4-1. That game's in the top of the 4th inning. You want to watch a team that's really struggling all aspects of the game? The Braves right now, defensively, offensively. 0-2 to Herrera. Up high, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Don't think Harvey's very happy with that last pitch he just threw. Sometimes you want to throw that high fastball letter high. As high as he threw it, that was just a non-purpose pitch. Just a waste of a pitch.
In the air to right field. Going back on it is Granderson. Back toward the wall. It is gone! 2-run home run for Odubel Herrera. And the Phillies now lead it 3-0. Well, he went down and got that one. First home run of the year for Odubel. He had 8 home runs last season. And the Phillies have increased their lead here in the 6th inning.
Nice timing, getting his foot down, stand behind the baseball, and hitting a very nice off-speed pitch down and in to a left-hander.
Well, it makes a winner out of Lorianne Powell, Marlton, New Jersey. She's just won $100 in the McDonald's home run jackpot.
It's nice to see him smiling.
So Murph, what are you going to do?
I guess I have to drop that money off. You made a promise.
I should really stop speaking for you. Here's Franco, who takes on the outside corner. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, I don't know what that's going to do for Odubel's swing, but it's going to make him feel pretty good. And there's Franco, who pulls that one into left field. So 3 straight hits for the Phils. Nothing's happening yet in the Mets bullpen. I mean, it's only 3 runs, but that's 3 straight hits. Dan Warthen now is on the phone. He had retired 10 consecutive hitters.
We talked about it in the open, but the Phillies having some success last year, and when Harvey made mistakes, they made him pay for it. And we see it again today. A fastball to Cesar out over the plate, base at the left. Hanging off speed pitch. Crushed to the bullpen in right field by Herrera.
Logan Verrett starting to warm up now for the Mets. 4 home runs now by the Phillies if you count the 3 games last year. And the game here, 4 home runs in the last 4 games against Harvey. I'm sorry, 5 home runs in the last 4 games. Yeah, the dirt, and it's 2-1. They hadn't done a whole lot of that before.
Yeah, in the previous set, they had 5 games, they had 1 home run. So when you end up seeing a pitcher as many times as we do throughout a season, it's usually the pitchers that have to make the adjustment to the hitters. You get in a rhythm of how you're going to pitch guys, the way the scouting report is. Now all of a sudden, instead of starting guys off with fastballs, now you have to get off the fastball and throw more off-speed pitches. Stand in a different spot on the rubber on the mound. Got to make adjustments.
3-1 with Franco at first. And Howard takes low. Ball 4. Ryan Howard has walked twice today. 2 on, 1 out. Carlos Ruiz is coming up. Now Dan Warthen is going to head out to the mound. Well, this Friday, the Phillies, along with the rest of Major League Baseball, will salute the life and legacy of Jackie Robinson. It's a first pitch of 7:05 against the Washington Nationals. The salute includes special videos, including highlights from Ken Burns' Jackie Robinson documentary. All the players on both teams will be wearing the number 42. Special guests include the Tuskegee Airmen, the Phillies' Jackie Robinson Scholar, and many others. Order your tickets now by going to Phillies.com. Well, this is a 25 pitch inning for Harvey, and the Phillies have gotten him for 2 runs and the 2-run home run by Odubel. And 3 hits overall, 4 base runners in a row. Outside, 1-0.
Again, we talked about it earlier with the guy that throwing 97, Matt Harvey, using he has an overpowering fastball, and once he get beat by, his second best pitch, which is the slider.
Yeah, we don't see him all the time, but we both have acknowledged today there's less fastballs today than normal, right?
I would agree.
Carlos takes a bit low. He might be fighting Jerry Meals here, but that's okay. Runners lead off first and second. Here comes the 2-2 pitch to Ruiz. Back toward the middle, softly hit. Walker's got it at the second base bag. It'll turn out to be an easy double play, and the side is retired. But the Phils add to their lead here in the top of the 6th inning. El Torito goes yard for the first time this year. He went down and got that one over the right center field wall. That's a long one. So it's 3-0 Phillies as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Toyota's hybrid fleet is nothing short of a home run. Visit your local Toyota dealer today. Buy WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. And buy your local Ford stores. Matt Harvey's afternoon is done. 6 hits, 3 runs, including a 2-run home run by Odubel Herrera. Strikes out 3, walks 2. He'll be pitch hit for as we begin the 6th inning. Alejandro De Aza will pinch hit for the Mets. Mets had signed De Aza, and there was a time that they thought he could see some legitimate time out in center field. That was before they re-signed Cespedes. I don't know if that would have had the same kind of bang for the buck. But he's fast, and that's why Galvis, who's playing third at this point, the way the shift is going, is in on the grass. It's 1 ball and no strikes. Franco is over on the right side. Boy, it's so easy. And I know he's deliberate. Yeah. Hellickson is, and that's just his reputation, but his motion and everything about him is just so easy.
I'm not sure if it's really a good thing for a hitter that can really run, have the shift on like they do. It means you're becoming too much of a pull hitter.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean, if you're a fast
you're
runner,
right.
You need to be like Otis Nixon.
Yeah, all that.
A slap hitter and run.
Right, all that real estate on the left side
Yes.
should be to your advantage. 1-2 pitch to De Aza. He lays off a breaking ball, and it's 2-2. As far as the Phillies bullpen is concerned, everybody but David Hernandez was probably available today. The reason that Charlie Morton was in the bullpen last night and would be the long guy was because Oberholzer had thrown 68 pitches the other day as the long man. Fly ball short left. Cedric Hunter is out there and puts it away for the first out. All right, so the Phillies starting pitchers in this series, Eichhoff was good, 5+. Velasquez was outstanding, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. Now Hellickson, who went 6 scoreless on opening day, is now 5 1/3 scoreless and 5 strikeouts. The ERA for the pitchers, the starters, came into today at 2.93.
And you got to remember too, it's the first start of the year, so you're not gonna push your starter to go 100, 110, 115 pitches his first time out.
Now that pitch right there for Hellickson was a 78th. He thrown 79 the other day. He'll be extended a little bit more today compared to Monday. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I hope so.
Center field. Odubel heading back. That's well hit, but Odubel's going to have some room. And he makes the catch for the second out. It's a big ballpark. You know, there's some ballparks, that ball is off the bat, you're thinking there's no chance anybody's going to get it. But this is a big place. I shouldn't say big, it's actually fair.
That's right down the middle. You know, if anything, it's smart pitching and dumb hitting.
Got to hit it a little more to the right.
Exactly. You threw it to an area where he's going to drive it to the big part of the ballpark.
Jeremy continues to shake his hands after that ground ball he hit against Matt Harvey.
His hand got blown up inside on that jam shot.
David Wright is the batter. He's 0 for 2. There was 1 point to start the game. Hellickson had retired 11 straight. That one's lined out toward right center field. Borges on the run. He won't get it. Cut off on 1 hop by Odubel. Wright's on his way to second. The throw is not in time. That was a lot closer play than you would have imagined once it left the bat of David Wright. They're gimme doubles in this game, but nothing was gimme there by Odubel Herrera, who really got over quickly.
Well, he got over really quickly. He was shading right center. That's David Wright's happy spot right there, that right center swing. Herrera gets up, makes a nice play, makes a strong throw. Like you said, Tom, it's a lot closer.
So now Cespedes, who is 1 for 2. Cespedes had the first hit of the game, the first of 2. That double by Wright is only the second hit. Inside and low, 1-0. He went right back to the same spot, but brought it in just a little bit. That it evens up at 1 ball and 1 strike.
You know, I love the fact that David Wright's at second base. There's 2 outs. Jeremy Hellickson turns and looks, you know, just looking back. He turns and he's picking up his target and taking his time. He's not rushing. He's not worried about the runner at second base, where a lot of young players might step off if he's getting too big of a lead. Jeremy doesn't care. He just wants to get the hitter, so that's why he's concentrating so hard to make a quality pitch right here.
Those 2 extra runs really helped him in that category to be able to do it that way.
Right, it'd be totally different. Right, great point, Tom, if it was 1-0.
1-2 pitch to Cespedes. Swing and a miss. Oh, excuse me. He fouled it up the first base line. Boy, he hit that one right off the ground. He just barely got a piece of it.
I can't believe he even touched this.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it remains 1-2. That ball gets away from Carlos over toward the on-deck circle. Wright will stop at third. That's a wild pitch. Puts a runner at third base. And the count is even, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Curveball that looks like it hits the little cutout around the home plate.
I would agree with you on that.
And hit and shot left.
Yeah, there's not much you can do about that if you're Ruiz. Maybe you can move your body forward a little bit, but he looked like he had everything going.
I guess the shot left or right depends on which way you look at it.
Behind home plate or in front of it?
We're looking at it left. On TV, it's shot right.
That was James Russell who's starting to throw in the pen with Lucas Duda in the on-deck circle, lefty. 2 balls and 2 strikes, 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Phillies on top 3-0. The Mets have a runner at third for the first time today. In fact, it's the first time they've got a runner in scoring position. Outside 3-2.
It was almost like a slider right there. 83 miles an hour.
Matt Harvey is done after 6 innings. He was pinch hit for to start this inning. He's hoping his team could take him off the hook. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Wright's over at third. And another foul ball by Cespedes. And we'll do it again. It's an 8-pitch at bat already. He's fouled 4 pitches off. He had one of these at bats in last night's game. Phillies have the drastic overshift on. Howard's all by himself on the right side. Once again, the 3-2 pitch, the 9th pitch of the at-bat. Ground ball foul past David Wright. And we'll do it again. This at-bat alone may take Hellickson out of the game because of the number of pitches that he's thrown. He had 20 pitches in the 4th inning.
Cespedes has kind of backed off on his swing. It's more of a defensive swing. Let's put the ball in play and see what happens. Usually we're used to seeing that big wild swing, and if he strikes out, he strikes out.
See where Carlos sets up. It looks like they're going to creep inside. In the air to left field. Hunter going back, and that one is gone. And this is a 1-run game after the 2-run home run by Yoenis Cespedes. Well, that's the big swing you were talking about, Matt. First home run of the year for Cespedes. First runs allowed by Jeremy Hellickson. And here comes Pete Mackanin. And he's already signaled to the pen to bring in James Russell.
There you go, buddy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That way, Dave. That baby.
So a pitching change. Hellickson's done after 5 2/3. It's a 1-run game here at Citi Fields. Yoenis Cespedes. 11 pitch at bat, Matt, and he decided to go with a changeup.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad of a pitch. It was down in the zone. Cespedes, not his typical wild swing. Fouled off some pretty good pitches early in the count. Got a changeup, barreled it, put it on the ballpark.
So Jeremy Hellickson's done after 5 2/3. He allows 2 runs and 3 hits. And it'll be James Russell who's on to face Lucas Duda. This is the only batter that, or at least this is the only time that Russell's going to pitch. He needs to get the out here because he's due up third in the top of the 7th inning. The pitcher spot is due up third. Duda today is 0 for 2, a fly out to left and a strikeout. I think Jeremy's a little honked at himself because he wasn't able to get through this 6th inning. He had a heck of a day, though. His stuff was really good. It's just that he came up against a very good hitter that won the battle. I mean, that was an 11 pitch at bat. And now Russell's ahead of Duda, 1 ball and 2 strikes. He's pacing in the dugout. He's gone up and down the dugout 4 times. There's an adrenaline rush that's still flowing through that body. I think what the Phillies have seen, though, in his first 2 starts are just what the doctor ordered. They wanted to get better starting pitching coming into this year, and they certainly have done that the first time through. 1-2 pitch to Duda. Out toward right field. Borges on the run over toward the line, makes the catch, and the side is retired. So the Mets do get 2 on the home run by Cespedes, but we're through 6 on to the 7th. The Phillies lead it by 1. Three to 2. Phillies on top. They scored 2 in the 6th on a 2-run home run by Odubel Herrera. Both starters are out of the game. Harvey goes 6, allows 3 earned runs. Hellickson was very good. He goes 5 2/3, and he allows 2 earned runs, his first 2 runs of the season. So now as we go to the top of the 7th inning, Cedric Hunter is due to lead it off, and they will face right-hander Jim Henderson. Logan Verrett had been warming up, but now Henderson, who pitched in game 1 of this series, hard-throwing right-hander, is on for just the 3rd time this year. And he will face Hunter, Borges, and then the pitcher spot. Henderson will top off in the mid-90s with his fastball. He's been out of the major leagues for the last couple of years because of shoulder problems that led to shoulder surgery. Cedric Hunter is 0 for 2. He's popped out. He's flied out to center. Let's revisit your keys today, Matt. One of them was Hunter using his top hand. What have you seen his first couple of at-bats?
He's not using his top hand. And the reason why is because he's hitting weak fly balls to the infield. He's not getting that drive and using that top hand and throwing the barrel. You know, we talk about losing control of the barrel. Losing control of the barrel is when the barrel all of a sudden goes below, you know, that straight line. You know, we want to keep those hands above the barrel, and we want to just basically throw that barrel to the ball. And when it starts to dip, that's why you hit a lot of weak fly balls.
And when it dips, your upper body dips. Your back shoulder falls back.
Correct. Because really that's the only way that you can get the barrel through the zone. Once that backside drops, then all of a sudden it feels like you're hitting uphill. It's like backhanding something or you know, chopping at a tree. You need to have that path of going straight down onto it. Throw that head.
3-1 to Cedric Hunter. Well, now he's in a hitter's count, so maybe he'll be able to adjust and do that in this spot. Oh, he got a good pitch. Yeah. That gentleman brought a glove, but the glove did not help him. Phillies fans, next time you want to grab Phillies seats, get to StubHub and get the StubHub app. Not only will you find seats you'll love whenever you want, you can find the best seat for your buck when you sort by best value. We'll take the price and location of seats and show you which tickets at StubHub give you the best deal. So get the StubHub app today. Hunter strikes out. He goes after a high fastball, one away. Hector Neris is in the bullpen. Hector's pitched the last couple of days, but as Pete told us before the game, he said, listen, he threw 13 and 17 in the last 2 days. He said, so we're comfortable that he can go out there and pitch at least an inning today. Peter Borges reached out an infield hit his first time up and came around to score the first run. Tyler Goodell in the on-deck circle. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tyler might get a couple starts this next week coming up. A couple left-handers.
I think Tyler needs a couple starts.
I would agree.
He's looking for his first major league hit. One ball and 2 strikes to Borges. Jerry Blevins is the lefty that's in the pen for the Mets.
Good pitch to hit right here.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Henderson. Well, he did get a good pitch to hit too. So here comes Goodell as the pinch hitter. Harvey struck out 3 through 6. Henderson has 2 in this inning alone. He's just using his fastball. So now Goodell, who has had 2 ABs in this series and has struck out both times.
Be ready for the first pitch fastball. You're a rookie. You've only had 4 at-bats in the season. they're going to challenge you with a fastball early and often. Until you prove when you can come off that bench and you become an automatic fastball hitter on the first pitch, you're going to see a ton of heaters.
You're probably going to see one here. 0-2 pitch coming to him. He got it. It was high. 1-2. Not the easiest thing to come off the bench, particularly in your first year. You made it look easy as your career went on.
Trust me, it wasn't easy.
1-2 to Goodell. And the pitch to him. Just a bit outside. 2-2.
You know what it is? It's a hard way to learn the game and try to prove to people that you belong to stay in the big leagues, becoming a pinch hitter. And I'm not saying he's a pinch hitter. He's a platoon guy who will get opportunities versus left-handers. But he's been coming in the late innings for guys that throw extremely hard.
Henderson has just struck out the side here at the top of the 7th inning. So the Phillies go down 1-2-3. We're going to stay here at Citi Field for God Bless America as the Mets get set to bat in the bottom of the 7th inning against Hector Neris and the Phillies bullpen. On a beautiful sunshiny afternoon, God Bless America will be performed by Alice Ripley here at Citi Field. So we'll let you get a chance to enjoy that before we head into our break here in between the top and bottom of the 7th inning.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
A free season-long subscription to MLB.tv Premium. This is the last day, so go to T-Mobile.com/MLB to sign up now and catch every moment on America's fastest-growing LTE network. Bottom of the 7th inning, Phillies are on top 3-2. And they'll go back to the bullpen. Hector Neris will be the new pitcher for the Phils. And he will face Neil Walker, Michael Conforto, and Asdrubal Cabrera. 4th game this year for Neris. So far 2 strikeouts and 2 1/3. Neil Walker is 0 for 2. He was robbed by Cedric Hunter his last time up. Hunter made an outstanding play.
A Hyundai play.
Yeah, Hyundai defensive play of the game. First pitch fastball is outside. It's 1-0. Comes back with that split, which even the Mets hitters acknowledged is a fantastic pitch for Hector Neris.
It's filthy. Especially if he throws it around the plate. Some days he can miss by a mile, but
They came back with back-to-back splitters. That one, well, wasn't a mile, but it was at least a quarter mile. And it's 2-1.
That one was only a kilometer.
Yeah.
Keith Hernandez also spoke very highly of Hector Neris. He's got a great split finger. Something he does not miss trying to make the adjustments to.
And a strike 3 called, a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah, there's one away here in the bottom of the 7th. Now, just as he thought the split was coming in, bam, a fastball.
Yeah, and I hope he wasn't looking for a split to hit, because there's no way you can hit a split finger fastball usually.
A reminder, every time the Phillies retire the opposing team 1-2-3, which Hellickson did the first 3 innings today, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Michael Conforto's the hitter with 1 man down.
The only way you can hit a split finger fastball, 2 balls, 2 strikes, and you're sitting on it, if you know the pitcher's going to basically hang that split finger. So taking a fastball down the middle, wrong thought process. Now don't get me wrong, I love when other teams do it.
Yeah. Over to first, diving stop, Howard to his feet quickly. Neris is right on the spot, 2 away. Good job by Ryan Howard to get that on the glove side.
Ryan showing some range, 1 step, dive, smother it, not panicking, showing the ball and giving a great flip. Look at that, nice play right there. I really like here that he takes a couple steps. He gets the ball out of the glove early and gives a nice feed to Hector Neris covering can of corn. Nice easy play.
Yeah, that'll bring Asdrubal Cabrera to the plate. He's 0 for 2. He has struck out and flied to right, flied out to the track in right field. Hector delivers a strike on the inside corner, 0-1. Addison Reed, who's warmed up a bunch of times in this series, is warming up again for the Mets. Ball, 1 strike. Over to first again. Ryan Howard has it again. Neris is at the spot, and a 3-1 putout. Hector Neris has pitched well these last couple of days, and he gives the Phils a big boost. So does Howard defensively, and we're on to the 8th inning in a 1-run game here at Citi Field. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. By the way, that X1 is fantastic. I mean, the remote control has changed everybody's life, but now you just talk into the remote control and it puts whatever you want on. Matt, you can say NHL playoffs and a list of NHL games will come up, and then you can pick and choose which way you want to go.
Go Flyers.
That guy's in the wrong ballpark. He's wearing a Yankee hat. As Addison Reed will take over here in the top of the 8th inning. Addison Reed has pitched in one game so far. That was against the Royals the other day, but he has been up in all 3 games in this series.
Addison Reed has pretty good stuff. He's a 3-pitch pitcher. Doesn't throw overly hard, but he will average right around 91, 92. He'll top it at 94 once in a while. Has a slider and a change as well.
Well, he's facing Freddie Galvis to start this off. Freddie is 0 for 2 with the sac fly. Drove in the first run of the day for the Phillies. And he rips that one foul down the right field line. This is the best swing he's had in a while.
That's what's called using that top hand.
The guy the Mets have to be excited about is what they've gotten out of Jim Henderson so far in 3 games.
Tough day today. Inning pitch, 3 punch outs.
I mean, look how good he was even the other day, an home opener here. I mean, his stuff was, well, his stuff was like it used to be in Milwaukee for that 1 year. He has 5 strikeouts in this series, 2 innings. 0-2 pitch to Galvis, and Freddie lines it into right field, a base hit. So he's aboard. Cesar Hernandez coming up. Don't forget, this Sunday when the Phillies take on the Nationals, it'll be the Fanatics' birthday presented by Citizens Bank. All kids 14 and under will receive the Fanatic Flare Hair Visor. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. All right, what are your thoughts here? Up by 1, top of the 8th inning. Is he bunting to get Galvis in the scoring position?
Hottest hitter, I would say yes. He's probably sacrificing.
And he bunts back toward the mound. That'll get the sacrifice in the books. And he was moving. He was trying to beat that for a base hit. So Galvis is up to second base.
You know, even though Cesar Hernandez has been your hottest hitter, you still like to see an opportunity to add on. Now, if it was a ball in that situation, then you might have seen Pete throw on a hit and run with a 1-0 count. A lot of people don't like the sacrifice bunt. They think it's just giving away an out. But sometimes when you need to find ways to score runs, you need to get guys in runners in scoring position.
Yeah, there's a very small margin of error for the Phillies, obviously offensively this year. So you got to manufacture runs when you can. And Odubel had a 2-run home run his last time up. Is up here.
Odubel probably has a little more confidence right now after hitting his first home run of the year. Coming back in the 6th inning off Matt Harvey on a slider down and in. That wasn't a very good pitch.
balls and no strikes. You got any thoughts of a green light here with the count 3-0?
Take this pitch. Spring training, Odubel, swing 3-0. Odubel 6 games into the season, take this pitch. Work on something with this pitch. Get your timing down from it.
And he takes it for ball 4. And that'll put 2 on with 1 out, and Maikel Franco will be the batter. Now, this is Reed's inning. There's nobody warming up in the bullpen for the Mets.
And that was 4 pitches. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with Herrera.
Well, and that's the thing about 3-0. I mean, they were working around him.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to acknowledge that if you're Herrera. So good speed on the base paths for the Phillies. The faster runners at first. With Franco up, he's 1 for 3 today.
That's the pitch he did not miss in spring training.
Franco did ask for time, and it was granted by the home plate umpire, Jerry Meals. And a line drive base hit it to left field. Galvis to third. He'll be held there. And the bases are loaded. Ryan Howard is coming up. The Phils lead it by 1, looking for some more. And Murph Howard's had a pretty good day. He's walked a couple times. He struck out back in the 4th, but those 2 walks are a pretty big deal.
He has had a good day. He had a good day yesterday as well. He's the subject of Coors Light Cold Hard Fact, presented by Clean Crisp Coors Light. He was playing in his 162nd career game versus the Mets last night when he hit that home run. It was home run number 45 versus the Mets, and that puts him in pretty good company. He is tied with Hank Aaron for 5th all-time home runs versus Mets. But take a look at that list. Willie Stargell, Mike Schmidt, Chipper Jones, Willie McCovey on that list. Guys that have hit the most home runs against the New York Mets. Ryan Howard in very, very, as he put it last night, rarefied air.
Yeah. Well, he's also the franchise's leader in grand slams. He's got the bases loaded here in the top of the 8th inning. And the first pitch a strike. Galvis was a quarter of the way down the third base line as that pitch came in, with David Wright way off the line at third. Outside, 1-1. Willie Stargell, I mean, if you look at the numbers for Stargell, he's on everybody. He's probably on everybody's list as far as most home runs. Certainly hit a lot of home runs at the Vet. 13 career grand slams for Howard. Tied him up, and it's 1-2. Runners lead off, and the 1-2 pitch coming to Howard. In the dirt, good play by Plawecki. It's so important with Galvis getting such a great secondary lead at third. You got to keep it around the plate if you're the catcher.
Good read by Freddie.
Yeah, he thought about it. If it had squirted a little bit to the right.
I will say that with Freddie getting a big lead, don't get the point where you feel uncomfortable. What I mean is, if you get out there and you feel like you're out in the middle of no man's land.
Yeah, you're dancing a little bit.
Yeah, now all of a sudden your weight's going back towards third. I'd rather see a little shorter lead, have a walking lead. Now your momentum's going towards home plate. And if you see you can't get there or you need to freeze, then you can, then you stop.
But that's a good point, because we did see him. He was dancing a little bit because I think he's thinking, oh, I'm too far. I have to be too far. 2-2 the count to Howard. In the air to right field. That's going to be deep enough to score Galvis. Granderson is under it. Waiting, makes the catch. Here comes Galvis going to third. It's Herrera. He better be careful, and he's back in time. Oh, man. Galvis crosses the plate and throws his hands up saying, what are you doing? It's a 4-2 Phillies lead, but if Herrera was out, I don't know if Galvis would have crossed the plates.
Yeah, it would have been very, very close.
If you're going to go, you might as well just go. I think he thought if I go and I'm thrown out a third before Galvis crosses the plate, I'm in trouble. Terry Collins may challenge this, and then you've got to look to see where the fielders are or where the base runner is. Right now it's 4-2, but Terry Collins may challenge to see whether Herrera was out or not going back to second base.
Well, Granderson knows he has no chance of throwing.
He looks like he got back.
Either runner out, so he gets the ball to second base.
Yeah, he's back. Now he may have come off the bag.
No,
but
his
it looks,
hand's
his hand's still on. Boy, I'll tell you what. I don't know if we've talked about base running more in the last 2 years. I don't know if there's another year we've talked about base running more than the last 2 years. So they'll look at this one, and it's not a bad idea by Terry Collins to request this challenge. I mean, at this point, it's up to the umpires to do it. But Odubel gets back, and it's fairly clear by the replays that we saw. But what a mess if they say he's out, because I don't know if Galvis would have crossed the plate before he was tagged out. Oh, it would have been awfully close. We just saw a replay here at the ballpark. And they would have looked at the same one.
Looks like they're having problems connecting with the.
With New York?
With New York. It's funny that we say that. Let's go ahead and yell.
Yeah. Well, we have shown you the replays that we have, and they'll have our replays and some others that they could utilize. But his hand is clearly back in the bag, and his hand doesn't come off the bag. And even if it does, Galvis at that point would have crossed the plates. I think. Again, Freddie was going hard. So this is Freddie. Yeah, this is the initial tag. So that's the initial tag, but his hand's on the bag. So he would not have been at home plate. But his hand is on the bag. Now, does his hand come off the bag at that point? Then it would have been that would have been a tough decision. That would have been tough to overturn. The run, that is.
Right.
If they called Odubel out. But as we showed you, his hand clearly was on the bag before the tag and never came off the bag when the tag was applied. So this should be 2 outs, 4-2 Phillies, and runners on first and second. Paul Nart's obviously having trouble with his headsets, but Jerry Meals heard everything. Safe. Okay. I'm telling you.
And we have talked the last couple of years about a lot of base running situations. Does it have to do with younger players afraid to make mistakes on the base path?
I don't know. It might. I mean, because I think Odubel has decent baseball instincts.
I agree.
I wonder if he thought that he would get thrown out at third before Galvis scored, and that's why he decided to go back and just play it safe. He could have gone to third.
Easily.
So after 2 minutes and 25 seconds, the Phillies do indeed have the 4-2 lead on the RBI from Ryan Howard on a sac fly. And now Carlos Ruiz is up with runners on first and second. Can you imagine, though, Matt, if he had been tagged out and Freddie, who was running hard, was 3 steps from home plate?
Good at bat by Ryan Howard.
Yep.
Get a ball in the outfield.
0-2 to Carlos. 1-2 to Carlos Ruiz. You know, now you can look at it and say, excellent at bat by Howard. Solid inning right now for the Phils to tack on a run. Odubel's going to get fined 50 cents by Pete Macadam.
Absolutely.
He has to get fined.
This team could be broke by the end of the year. With the base running mistakes right now.
Chopper toward the hole, cut off by right. Ruiz is retired, and so are the Phils here in the 8th inning. Well, Pete Macadam may have plenty of change to get himself a soda at each hotel we go to, but he has a 2-run lead as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 4-2, Phillies hot top. Monday morning right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Sportsnet Central will go over to TCN for the week as Breakfast on Broad comes over to Comcast Sportsnet. They'll be talking a lot of Flyers. They'll be talking about this series between the Phillies and the Mets, and looking forward to opening day at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow, 3:05 first pitch. We will start the bottom of the 8th inning, and Hector Neris is still out on the mound. He'll face Kevin Plawecki. Wilmer Flores will come out as a pinch hitter for Addison Reed. And at the top of the Mets order. First pitch is over. It's a strike. It's 0-1. You know, Genmar Gomez will be used as the closer again today, but Pete also said he may use him in the 8th inning. It may be more than a 3-out save for Genmar. Hector, those fire and strikes, and that's a good thing. 13 pitches, 9 strikes so far.
Yeah, and that's the key for Hector to make that split finger fastball even more effective, is get ahead of the hitters.
0-2 pitch.
Nasty.
Checked his swing. Did he go? Yes. And there is out number 1. That is a nasty pitch.
Oh, I mean, it really is. It just drops off the table.
And the more he does that, honestly, the more success he's going to have, because this game is so much about confidence.
Well, this right here, you think it starts at the knees, and look at that. Just off the table.
So the last 2 games for the bullpen, which was maligned, obviously, in Cincinnati and in the first day here. 4 2/3, 5 strikeouts. Prior to that, 15 earned runs and 10 2/3. Here's Wilmer Flores, who gets the loudest cheers of anybody, it seems, here at Citi Field. Ever since he was almost traded to the Brewers and then teared up on the field, and then really bounced back to have a very good second half for the Mets. They love him. No balls, 2 strikes to Flores.
See Flores how he grips that bat, wraps that top hand, which tells me he's a pull hitter. Not a lot of power to right field, but he wants to pull everything.
Well, he's not going to be able to pull that split. That's 3 strikeouts now for Hector Neris. 5 up, 5 down for Neris. Reminder, if you have a group of 25 or more and you want to come out to Citizens Bank Park, you can take advantage of special opportunities, including discounts, theme nights, and party areas. Go to Phillies.com/group tickets for more information. It includes special fundraising opportunities, which is a great way to raise funds and awareness. 2 outs here in the 8th. Curtis Granderson, the batter, and he takes a strike. It's 0-1. I mean, he's throwing that split at all different levels. Up, down, around.
I'd definitely rather see it down, that's for sure.
Fly ball to right field. Borges out toward that well. Plenty of room. And an easy inning for Hector Neris. Well, Neris, he wound up throwing 20 pitches in 2 innings of work today. He struck out 3. And we'll go to the 9th inning with the Phillies hanging on to a 2-run lead. Field. It's the final game of a 3-game series. It's time now for our GMC Precision Play of the game. It's all about Hector Neris. That's what we're talking about, Matt.
All about the split figure fastball and going out there and absolutely pounding the strike zone. Getting ahead with the fastball, being able to put the hitters away with that nasty split finger fastball.
And the split, as we mentioned, if it's in the general vicinity, it's hard to lay off. I mean, he's thrown it up in the zone, down and away, down all the way. I mean, it's been pretty effective, at least these last couple days.
It has. It's nice to see.
Logan Verrett is the new pitcher for the Mets. Verrett so far has not pitched for New York this year. Last year hit a 3.03 ERA. And he will face Cedric Hunter as we start the top of the 9th inning. Phillies up 2.
Verrett's scouting report, he's a 4-pitch pitcher, which you do not see very often. The guy coming out of the bullpen, 89 to 92 with his fastball. And his change is 83. Throws a slider and a curveball as well.
A former starting pitcher working out of the bullpen. Now the 0-2 pitch to Hunter. Swing and a miss on a breaking ball. I think we saw 3 of the 4 pitches in that at bat.
We did, and I think it'd be safe to say that Logan kind of reminds you of a Jeremy Hellickson on the mound. Nice easy delivery, not overpowering, but uses all 4 pitches when he needs to.
Here's Peter Borges. The on-deck batter is Andres Blanco. He'll be batting for the pitcher. And that means that Gomez will come on in the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th inning. Borges is 1 for 3. Infield single in the 3rd.
This is where I would absolutely love to see Borges go ahead and swing. No thought process, just get the barrel out and just let it fly.
He thought it was ball. He almost threw the bat twice.
The only reason why I say that is because you're up by 2 runs. He has good power. You don't have to think about anything while you're hitting a 3-0.
Fouls the 3-1 off Jerry Meals, the home plate umpire. But it's 3-2. Phillies will head home after this ball game. Later on tonight, the national game is the Yankees and the Tigers. Kind of odd that they picked a Detroit as the first national game on this Sunday night, considering the temperatures will be in the high 20s. Actually, we've just been told it's been postponed.
Really? Good choice. Again, why wouldn't you go to a place where there's a dome
I don't know.
and cover the game?
There's Aaron Nola. He'll start tomorrow's ball game for the Phils. Yeah, they could have had Boston and Toronto. Would have been comfortable. Texas or the Angels. Would have been a lot of sunlight.
Or maybe Oakland and Seattle.
Why not? Giants Dodgers would have been good.
Phillies Mets. Oh wait, that means we ought to stay here longer.
Yeah, it might have been a little chilly tonight, although it is getting warmer. Blanco pinch hitting with a runner at first base and 1 out here in the 9th inning. Blanco sends one in the air to right center field. That's going to split the gap and go to the wall. The Phils are going to get an insurance run because Borges is already flying around third. He'll score an RBI pinch hit double for Andres Blanco, and it's a 5-2 ball game. As you said, it's not easy to come off the bench, but for Andres Blanco, it's kind of old hat.
Well, he's a veteran. He knows what to look for off the bench. First pitch, get the pitch up in the zone, being a very aggressive. A nice, easy swing. Nice to see him get his timing down. Peter Borges, what a great read as soon as he hit that ball. He was off to the races.
Freddie Galvis with 1 out takes a strike. It's 0-1.
I mean, Borges was almost home, and Whitey wasn't even at second base yet.
And he took a wide turn around third, too. That's floated out toward left center field. Conforto is under it. 2 outs. And Cesar Hernandez will be the batter. So the Phils have scored single runs in the 8th and 9th. Galvis scored one in the 8th, and Borges scores one here in the 9th inning. It is good to have that speed.
Yeah, it was.
You were a base stealer at one point.
Yeah.
In June of '93.
91.
So we get a miss. 0-1.
Be nice to see Cesar Hernandez get a big knock right here and pick up another run.
Outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. was fooled on that one, and it evens the count up at 2-2. Cesar will return home with at least 8 hits, depending on what he does in this at bat. He had a sacrifice his last time up, which helped the Phils score a run in the 8th inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Cesar Hernandez. And he fouls that one in and out of the glove of Plawecki. Blanco, an RBI pinch hit double here in the 9th inning. Ground ball to first. And Lucas Duda's got it. And we will move to the bottom of the 9th inning, and the Phils have tacked on another run to take a 3-run lead. So Jeanmar Gomez will be brought on to close it out. Up by 3. David Wright is the first one up.
Going to win 2 in a row against the New York Mets, and when this one is said and done, it's back home for the Phils, as we talked about the home opener tomorrow here in the pitching matchups as the Padres come to town for a 4-game series. Andrew Cashner will have the ball for the Padres against Aaron Nola tomorrow. Then it'll be Robbie Erlin and Charlie Morton coming your way on Tuesday at 7:05. Wednesday, 7:05, Colin Ray and Jared Eichhoff. And then Thursday at 1:05, Drew Pomerantz and Vince Velasquez for the Phillies. Guys, remember, not over yet. 3 more outs to go here.
Murph, we have not put the final 3 outs in our book. We are waiting until this one is finished up. Jeanmar Gomez will be the new pitcher. Gomez, his 3rd ball game. Last night he closed out his first save of the season in just his 2nd big league career, and he did it lickety split.
Well, he did it by using a very good changeup right there. Not real sure about that throw right there, but the movement of his fastball, you can tell right here with these big league hitters hitting the ball off the end of the bat. That tells you how much movement. That one there got a little too much plate. Doesn't matter. Good placement. Nice job of saving the game last night.
Well, this is a save situation. He's got a 3-run lead, though. Reminder that tomorrow, 3:05 first pitch at Citizens Bank Park, the home opener. Phillies return home for 4 against the San Diego Padres. First, though, 3 outs to get here in the bottom of the 9th. David Wright, the batter, and he swings at the first pitch, bloops it to right. Borges coming on. It'll drop for a base hit. So Wright has 2 hits today. After the game, stick around. Ricky Bottalico will break down this ball game. The pitching performance by Jeremy Hellickson, only on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies Post-Game Live. Ricky will have a lot to talk about, particularly if Jeanmar Gomez can close this ball game out. Talk about the success of the bullpen. 2 1/3 scoreless so far in relief of Jeremy Hellickson. Cespedes hit a 2-run home run his last time up. He's 2 for 3. Phillies play him to pull, particularly with Franco, who's covering the line over third. He's disappeared in that shadow. Galvis is shallow at shortstop. Kind of an interesting alignment for him. A confident alignment.
Yeah, especially with Cespedes, who has tremendous speed, but he also hits the ball extremely hard on the ground.
That one floats inside, 2-0.
Cespedes looks like a much more comfortable hitter right now. Everything is just slowed down in his stance. He's being selective. He was fouling off some tough pitches in the 6th inning when he hit the home run on the 11th pitch.
Ground ball toward the hole, scooped up by Galvis. They get the lead runner and not able to get Cespedes, but they get the first out. One away, 6-4 on the put out at second base, a fielder's choice, and here comes Lucas Duda.
Things are going well for Gomez when he's getting a lot of ground balls or a lot of jam shots that mean that sinker is moving and moving late. And all you can do really is just drive the ball into the ground.
Ryan Howard is not going to hold Cespedes on at first base. With a lefty Duda at the plate, he's going to play near him, but it doesn't look like he's going to hold him on. One ball, no strikes to Duda. That'll be fouled on the left field line. It slices out of play.
You know, I'm watching where Ryan's playing behind Cespedes. Only a couple feet behind him. He's tapping the glove to keep him close. You're not worried if he goes or not, but I'd like to see him back up a little bit more. One is because of the cut of the grass. You come across where that grass is, you never know if that ball hits, it's going to pick up speed. You back up a little bit. Now all of a sudden you have a less hole. Like this grass right here, it's tough for a first baseman because it's always seems like always gets you in between that in-between hop. So leave him alone, back up. If he wants to take second base, go ahead and take second base.
Yeah, you've got a 3-run lead. You'd rather put yourself in position to stop anything else. That one's out towards short, caught out of the air by Galvis, throws over to first, and Cespedes gets back. 2 outs. Well, I have to say that the alignment the Phillies have had in this series, you know, I don't know if any of us agree on all of the different alignments that go on in baseball, but the alignment has really worked a few times in this series.
Well, and this one here almost backfired. You know, you have Freddie playing where he is. He's not playing the typical up the middle. He's playing, okay, we're going to play him a little opposite field, that side. Charts don't lie, Tom.
I guess not. Here's Neil Walker. The Phils need one more out. They've lost 5 straight series here. Cespedes goes. They'll let him take second. So he's in scoring position. That'll be defensive indifference. 1 ball, no strikes. So they've lost 5 straight series here at Citi Field. Last year they were 1-8 in New York. They have split the first 2 games of this series. If they're able to get this last out, it'll be their first series win since May of 2014 here. Tapper foul, 1-1. on the inside corner. It's 1-2. Cespedes leads off second base. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Walker. And the pitch. Just a bit inside, 2-2. Try to get to that same spot. It was a little tight. Swing and a miss. He got him. A little high heat from Jenmar Gomez. And the Phillies have taken 2 of 3 from the New York Mets this weekend as they win this one by a final score of 5-2. Well, this is a heck of a bounce back series for the Phillies after what happened in Cincinnati, where the bullpen blew 2 games in that series. Well, today the bullpen is our Chevrolet players of the game. They've had 2 outstanding games in a row. Today, though, 3 1/3 in relief of Jeremy Hellickson. 1 hit and 4 strikeouts, and no walks by the Phillies bullpen. Well, Pete Macadam said, we will figure this out, and at least for a couple of days, they have figured it out of the bullpen. Also got some timely hits, including our WB Mason delivery of the game.
Comes back in the 6th inning. Odubel Herrera on a 1-2 slider down and in. All he does is just throw the barrel. It's heating up. Odubel starting to swing the bat a little better. At that point, it made it 3-0. Harvey wasn't very happy with that pitch, by the way. That is your WB Mason delivery of the game.
Well, Jenmar Gomez picked up his 2nd straight save, and for that, gets a chance to talk to Greg Murphy. Murph?
All right.